What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into the FantasyPros YouTube channel. My name is Lucas Wenzel, and today we are talking about 10 players that you should be looking to stash ahead of this weekend slate and ahead of next week's waivers as well. But before we dive into that list, struggling with your fantasy punishments this year? We've got you covered. Give the last place loser in your league the trophy they deserve by immortalizing their epic fail with Trophy Smack's teeny tiny loser title belt. This mini title belt has loser written all over it, literally. To win, all you need to do is subscribe to the FantasyPros YouTube channel right now, drop a comment below on this video, and that's it. That's all you've got to do. We'll be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so make sure to turn on those notifications so you can know when new videos are up and to come claim your prize. Kicking off our list this week is Houston Texans wide receiver Noah Brown, who's rostered in 13% of leagues. Obviously, Noah Brown is coming off a massive week where he caught all 6 of his passes for 153 yards and a score, which was good to be the wide receiver 3 on the week. Now, this might seem like a case of just chasing points on the waiver wire, but I'm optimistic for Brown moving forward. Since returning from injury in week 6, he's drawn at least 5 targets in each game, which is nothing flashy, but has played 72% of the snaps in back-to-back weeks now. If you include his massive week 9 performance, Brown has been running a whopping 3.13 yards per route, which is 5th best. That number is obviously inflated from week 9, but even if you remove that number, he's still running 2.04 yards per route, which is a respectable top 25 number. All in all, Noah Brown does have more upside than we may think, and I'm willing to take the chance and stash him. Second on our list is Leonard Fournette, now Buffalo Bills running back, who's rostered in 27% of leagues. It's not a real surprise that Leonard Fournette didn't suit up in week 9 for the Bills. Takes time to get settled into a new team and get familiar with the playbook. That being said, he's still a big threat to blow up the value in this backfield. As I mentioned last week, we don't entirely have a clue how the Bills plan to deploy him. Obviously, we know his best ability was in the passing game with the Buccaneers. That would impact James Cook. Latavius Murray hasn't been great around the goal line, and maybe the Bills don't want Josh Allen as their primary goal line back. Perhaps they give Fournette his chances around the end zone. No matter how they plan to utilize Lenny, there's opportunity and a role for him here, and in a high-powered offense like the Bills, there's great opportunity for relevance. Sliding in next is Washington Commanders wide receiver Curtis Samuel, who's rostered in 33% of leagues. Samuel sat out in week 9 with a toe injury that he picked up in week 8 against the Eagles, but as of this recording, he's been back at practice in limited fashion. Prior to his injury, Samuel had drawn 7+ targets in 3 of his last 5 games and was well on his way in week 8, where he only played 19% of the snaps, but had already drawn 4 targets. Between weeks 4 through 6, he had also put up 14+ fantasy points in each game on route to 3 top 24 finishes and 2 top 15 finishes at the position. Hopefully Samuel gets back on the field this week to take advantage of a fine matchup with the Seattle Seahawks. But even if he doesn't, he still gets favorable matchups with the Giants and Dolphins before his week 14 bye. Our next stash we'll talk about is Ty Chandler, running back for the Minnesota Vikings, who's rostered in only 5% of leagues. Ty Chandler now regains his role as Alexander Madison's backup after Cam Akers unfortunately tore his other Achilles in week 9. Madison has been less than inspiring this year. He's averaged only 3.5 true yards per carry on the ground, which is 47th of all running backs, and is gaining only 4.1 yards per touch, which is 43rd. I don't want to dump on the guy, but it's not good when he has more games with less than 40 rushing yards than he does with more than 40 rushing yards. I say that all to ultimately point out that there is opportunity for Ty Chandler here. After New Orleans in week 10, the Vikings get juicy matchups with the Broncos, Bears, and Raiders in their next 3 games. My tight end stash of the week is going to be Pat Freiermuth of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who's rostered in 36% of leagues. Technically, Freiermuth is on IR until week 11, but we're going to work ahead of the curve on this one since he is on track to play in that game against the Browns. It was slow going for Freiermuth the first 4 weeks of the season. He only drew 13 targets total and couldn't even muster 10 receiving yards in 3 of those games. Well, that doesn't sound like a guy worth rostering. I'm willing to write him a pass considering week 1 was just an all-around dominance by the 49ers, and the Cleveland Browns have been the stingiest team against tight ends this year. The schedule lightens up with a great stretch of matchups after week 11 for Freiermuth with the Bengals, Cardinals, Patriots, Colts, and Bengals again in the 5-game stretch. If you're in need of a tight end who's proven his worth before, then Freiermuth's your guy. Coming in next is Detroit Lions wide receiver Jameson Williams, who's rostered in 26% of leagues. I would be remiss to not name a few red flags with JMO before explaining my optimism. The team did go out and trade for Donovan Peoples-Jones, who is also a field stretcher similar to Jameson Williams. He also only has one game with more than 3 targets this year. I get it. This is a make or break game for the second-year wideout though. He's still seeing a crazy high average depth of target of 15.5 yards. That's 7th best in his active games this year. He also has 5 drops in 4 games played, which obviously is not great. It leads the league. But if those get cleaned up, we're looking at a far more productive outing than 2 for 2 yards, 0 for 0 yards, or 2 for 16 yards. In what could potentially be a high-scoring game with the Chargers this week, it's make or break time for Jameson Williams, and on the chance he makes it big, I'd go ahead and stash him. Up next is San Francisco 49ers running back Elijah Mitchell, who's rostered in 18% of leagues. Now I know Mitchell has absolutely 0 standalone value. However, we are at that point in the fantasy football season where any injury of extended time could absolutely tank your chances at winning the championship. It's no secret that Christian McCaffrey is the overall running back 1 in fantasy football and has been absolutely dominating. I never, ever wish injury upon a player, but we've already seen plenty of other running backs miss times with injuries this year. Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler, just to name a few. On the off chance something happens to McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell is the golden ticket every manager in your league will be after. It's better to have your insurance policy locked down now before something happens later. My next stash is going to be Marvin Mims of the Denver Broncos, who's rostered in 12% of leagues. I can only paint this picture so pretty when Mims hasn't seen more than 1 target in each of his last 5 games, but I am buying a lottery ticket here. Mims' yards per route run metrics were off the charts through the first 3 weeks of the season, running 7.22 yards per route. That now has obviously cooled off, but Sean Payton has come out of the team's Week 9 bye and said that he wants to get the rookie more involved. Alright, I'll bite for at least the next 2 weeks where the Broncos draw great matchups with both the Bills and the Vikings. Another running back you should be looking to stash is Tank Bigsby of the Jacksonville Jaguars, who's rostered in 10% of leagues. Travis Etienne has been on fire since week 5, scoring 22 plus fantasy points in every outing and earning 21 plus touches in all but 1 game. Just like Elijah Mitchell and Marvin Mims, I'm buying lottery tickets left and right at this point of the season. Nobody wants injuries to happen, but should anything happen to Travis Etienne, there is a colossal workload coming Tank Bigsby's way, and it's better to be out in front of it than fighting your league mates on the waiver wire afterwards. Wrapping out our list this week is Cleveland Browns wide receiver Cedric Tillman, who's rostered in 0% of leagues. If you're not familiar with Cedric Tillman, he's a big 6'3", 215-pound rookie wide receiver out of Tennessee, taken in the 3rd round of this year's draft. He's been irrelevant up to this point in the season, but his snap share spiked out of nowhere this last week. Tillman hadn't played more than 20% of the snaps all season, but in week 9, he played 74% of the team's snaps. That may be due to the departure of Donovan Peoples-Jones and a brutal beatdown of the Cardinals, but if I have a roster spot open, I'd be willing to see if this snap count repeats itself, and if Tillman turns into another weapon for Deshaun Watson. Alrighty, that is all I have for you today. And remember, if you're struggling with fantasy football punishments this year, we've got you covered. Give the last place loser in your league the trophy they deserve by immortalizing their epic fail with Trophy Smack's teeny tiny loser title belt. This mini title belt has loser written all over it, literally. To win, all you need to do is subscribe to the FantasyPros YouTube channel right now, drop a comment below on this video, and that's it. That's all you need to do, my friends. We will be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so make sure to turn on those notifications so you can know when new videos are up and to come claim your prize.